Printing news Unpeeled, courtesy of 3dprint.com. So today we bring you news of a not-for-profit, and this is Makers Making Change. Now, traditionally, if we look back about 10 years, there's a lot of initiatives like this that came up, but not a lot of them that have survived. And Making Change has been around since 2016. Um, it essentially it connects people who have a disability with assistive devices. So they have a library of assistive devices they've designed, and these devices have been manufactured using 3D printing, and they'll connect you with a maker, and that maker will print out that device for you. Or if you have a need that is not met by any of these devices, they have like a team of people to develop these for you. Now, this is the perfect application for 3D printing as a technology because we're making unique things or low volume things in a particular location for a particular person. Um, we really ideally would want to see a lot more of these initiatives in a lot more areas, not only in charity, but also as businesses. And it's really kind of sad that there's not a lot out there because it's just perfect to find people that have a capability to design and 3D print and to have them make a library of things that are needed. Think about this for low income countries, or a library for people who wish to have their own water or energy needs, or a library of people who are urban poor and would like to do something about that, or a library for people who wish to construct low energy tiny houses. All this stuff can be done with 3D printing. Library of low cost in class 3D printed goods to explain all sorts of engineering concepts, or a library for low cost lab instrumentation. All this stuff could be done. Now, of course, part of it can be done by Thingiverse uh, um, and other initiatives like that. But having a specific charity that does a specific thing would be really, really strong. The same thing I think is also for companies similar. That they say they're 94% cheaper than the commercially available alternatives, if there are indeed commercially available alternatives. But I think the real where this gets to be, to me, incredibly relevant is the fact that you're making something that otherwise would not exist. So somebody has a particular disability that needs a particular thing that no one else has thought to solve, or no one else is able to solve. That's really what we're doing now. Of course, there are some things to consider, like how much can we test these things? How safe is the filament? For these kind of things, if they have these kind of things like stabilizing spoons and things, it seems okay. But what if you're like a quadriplegic or something and you need like a thing that you put in your mouth all day? Well, we'd want that to be very safe, obviously. So these kind of safety concerns should be addressed. But hey, going forward, I think these kind of initiatives, I hope we have a lot more of them. The next thing is Saab. Saab, the defense contractor, has signed an agreement with the Twazun Council. Tawazun Council. I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing that. That's the UAE's kind of council for governance of military spending and governance of kind of uh, um, commercialized and extended defense spending in the UAE. And Saab has a really long relationship with doing jobs with this council, and now has gotten a kind of contract to extend the 3D printing capability to Saab's the UAE's Air Force and Air Defense, AFAD as a collective. So this follows on from a UAE kind of Emirati printing center of excellence called Sindan, which is also being deployed at the same time. So this means, and we've seen that the UAE has done a lot of 3D printing initiatives all across the space, but now we're seeing that the UAE is doing stuff defense related as well. Now, I would expect there to be more of this going forward as countries are working about resilience. Countries are thinking about being able to supply their own arms, even if they're internationally very unpopular, and of trying to see this kind of capability. The UAE wants to do this because, well, they want to encourage knowledge transfer, create high tech jobs for Emiratis, build capabilities locally in aerospace and aerospace manufacturing. But they also want this training and capacity building to increase the self reliance of the country. So, really, I would expect a lot of countries to increase their ability in spare parts and hardware for 3D printing, and to pay for that if they can, just like the UAE can. And I would expect indeed that we are in the beginning of a 3D printing arms race, because 3D printing gives you the ability to quickly iterate and quickly improve your kit, but also gives you the ability to quickly do MRO and spare parts, But also, should you be unpopular at one point, should no one in the world like you, or should Sweden or another country not want to supply you, 3D print gives you the ability to carry on doing warfare, whereas you're still unpopular. So that's something we need to come to grips with as a industry. What's also interesting about this is who can do this capability, right? Who can train and equip the UAE with this? Is it going to be like a company like Materialize? No, they don't do weapons, but is it going to be like Sintavi or something like that, a service bureau that makes high tech things for aerospace? Or is it going to be an OEM, for example, like that are deploying this capability because they're a larger company? Or is it going to be a defense contract? In this case, it's a defense contract. In this case, the Saab relationship with the UAE trumps like their knowledge in 3D printing. So it would be interesting to see going forward, you know, who deploys these 3D printed parts and who's going to make it. Are the UAE as a government going to make this? Are they going to outsource this capacity? Are they going to permanently outsource it? Those are the kind of things that we really should be paying attention to. This is a bit of news that comes to us from the German Institute of Textile and Fiber Research, called the DITF, that's been working with Arburg um, on a kind of a environmentally friendly composites material. Now, actually, they released this in end of last year, and I missed it completely. So I'm including this just in case you missed this completely because it's so important. Now, there's a lot of news about composites. Companies like Impossible Objects, 9T Labs, Mark Forge are doing a lot of work in composite materials. We've got Arrivo and others doing anything from sunglasses to drones to consumer products. So we're seeing an explosion in composites because we can do a lot of really cool things with the composites. We can make a really strong polymer object that can replace metal. It can be very light. We can direct fibers to a certain extent to give kind of performance we want. And all in all, this is a very exciting area. Now, the big dirty secret about composites, of course, is they're made from very nasty precursors. They're very nasty process from in terms of disposing of the chemicals and in terms of the fibers, and also the thermosets or other materials and coming in contact with staph. There's a lot of problems with that as well. Um, and then there's the other problem that the fiber itself, a lot of the chemicals that make the matrix material, and also the final product is not able to be recycled. A lot of cases they're thermosets, which cannot be recycled at all. And then some cases, now that we're seeing more thermoplastic composite materials, the final product is like it's kind of this mix of fiber and plastic. So together it's really difficult to make anything kind of semi-useful about it, except for like making it kind of a dust for a tile or something. So composites is the once or future king and could really extend, from it also rules like markets like bicycles already. High-end bicycles are composites, but it could be extended much further to that into consumer products to make consumer products that are lighter and use less material and that are strong at the same time. But again, I don't see that happening with unsustainable ones. So what Arburg, right, who have a 3D printing capability and a lot of injection molding capability are doing is something that is mega exciting, like mega exciting. Because rather than go with these e-glass and all these other really nasty precursors and fibers, what they're doing is they're using continuous cellulose fibers and a cellulose-based matrix. So that is like essentially plant material or derivatives of plant material. And they're doing the processing at ambient temperature. So that means that there's no need for other really extensive subsequent steps, which could make this very advantageous. Now, the project was called cellulose-based is ongoing, and but I'd love these kind of developments and the idea of people really fundamentally looking at this process and say, okay, let's just start it all over again and see if we can make that. I don't know if it's going to work for Formula One cars or for braces or for bicycles and things like this. But if we can just replace a part of this market with a much more sustainable, recyclable option, it's sure to be a real interest to a lot of companies and consumers alike. Anyway, so thank you very much for your time. My name is Joris Peels, and this is another episode of the 3D Printing News Unpeeled. Thanks to 3dprint.com. You have a great day.